It's actually a really big topic in my life, and kind of quite timely. Like there is a history of mental illness in my family, and something that we've had to navigate as a family for a very long time. And I think the narrative really is changing around, kind of leaders, and especially leaders in business, having to be strong all the time, and rather realizing that kind of a fulfilled life is really important to. Nobody wants to be rich and die of a heart attack at 55. I think there's a much better conversation, much more wholesome conversation happening around our understanding of mental health issues and the importance of those in running sustainable businesses and fulfilled lives. But I think also just kind of being brave and honest around when we're not doing well and when we're struggling. And I think a big part of how I've learned to work through that is with friends that I really trust, that are in the entrepreneurial space, fighting the same battles, and kind of it can be a very lonely job sometimes, and it's really important to connect with people that you can kind of share openly and honestly with. And I guess the second part of it is around just being very deliberate around practicing a self-examined life, being very open to things like therapy and mindfulness as a way to be more conscious of how you're feeling and the way that you are thinking. If you want to get really fit, you go and see a running coach, or you see a gym instructor, and we don't really treat our minds or our brains the same way. We always see that as being a weakness, whereas the right kind of relationship with the right kind of coach or therapist or whatever it might be can be hugely empowering, and can have the same benefit on your brain as kind of a really great personal trainer can have on your body and your health. So I think we definitely need to think more along those lines. And yeah, I'm certainly a big proponent of that kind of conversation. And yeah, I think it's honestly an open conversation around that really does advocate for strength, and not in any way, shape, or form for weakness, because everybody's going through something. It's just our ability to be honest about it, and I think change our attitudes towards it, that makes a big difference.
I wish I could give you the. Okay, so let me tell you the honest admission first that I'm feeling more and more cynical about people like me, because we all sit and we talk about all these cool things that we do. But I promise you, I climb into bed and I lose sleep the same way that you do. And I think everyone is struggling with something, and we're all insecure. And I found that the more systems I put in place, I'm not convinced that I am any less stressed than anybody else. In fact, sometimes I now stress about my systems. However, I have them and I'm willing to share them with you anyway. So every single day, I start off my day with doing two things. I write a new day's resolution. So by the end of today, if I've achieved X, I have won. And today's, funny enough, is to finish the last 15 chapters of Legicide Review, which I will do. But often it's a thing like eating less than 2,000 calories, or training and drinking X amount of water, right? Or intermittent fasting, or whatever the case may be. And every week, at the end of a week, or at the end, when I wake up the following morning, I give myself either a V sign emoji or a poo emoji, depending on how I performed the day before. Then what I do is in the notes, I write a to do better list. And I write a list of things that I think I could have done better the day before. And people have often given me crap about this, saying, but dude, why are you looking backwards? Why isn't, this is so negative. Why are you beating yourself up? But actually, I think that we should be better versions of ourselves today than we were yesterday. And this is the one thing that I stand by as probably the best thing that I've ever kind of created myself, is the idea of the to-do better list. Waking up in the morning and sitting there and saying, because I know a lot of people do gratitude journals and things like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but just by reflecting on who I was yesterday and saying, if I could redo yesterday and be a better version of myself, what would I have done differently? It makes it very, very, or makes it much, much easier for you to make better decisions in the future when you come up to those things. And I've seen this time and again. There's been times when I've been about to do something and I thought, if you do this now, you're going to write about it tomorrow in the to-do better list. And some days I think, whatever, man. And I do it anyway, and I deal with the consequences. And other days I stop myself and think, yeah, it's not worth it, and move on. So I do that. Then I read a passage of a book. So last year and the year before, I read The Daily Stoic and Food Rules, FOOD Rules. They're both very, very short passages, and so I would read both of those a day, and I've kind of done those on a loop. At the moment, I'm reading A Calendar of Wisdom by Leo Tolstoy. That's the guy who wrote War and Peace. And he's got a book that he'd written, and it was a collection of quotes and ideas that he felt were the most valuable, and he writes one per day. The only caveat for me is that this book is proving to be extremely religious. And I understand that this speaks a lot to the zeitgeist at the time that he would have written it. And I'm able to look at verses from Bible. I'm not a religious person myself, but verses from the Bible and see the value in them, and where I might just swap out the word God for life or purpose or whatever the case may be. However, it's maybe just if you are going to have a look at the book, have a look at it with that caveat, because I sneakily or not sneakily, the Amazon Kindle sample size, it didn't seem that way. And then, like the day I finished the Amazon's Kindle sample, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." And then it was the next day I tried to convert me. So we'll see. But it is pretty good. And if you can read beyond that, if you're religious, then you'll really, or a Christian, you'll really enjoy it, or religious in general. But it's some really, really good life tips to reflect on every day. I try to reflect on those things. Then I exercise. Most days I do intermittent fasting. Most days I jump rope. I almost always in a workout day, do 100 push-ups and 100 double unders, as well as other stuff. And
I find it comical is because people don't understand how to switch off. And I think that's something that I'm very good in, because politics has taught me that, where you cannot help every single resident all the time. You have to take some time for yourself, because if you don't, then you're not going to be able to be efficient in what you do. I'm very lucky, though, in the sense that social media has become literally, I would say it's like an extra limb, to what I have, because I have to communicate to my residents via social media. So it's part of my daily routine to know that I'm going to probably spend a lot more time on social media than your average counselor or than your average person, because I do YouTube and I also use it as a platform to communicate with my residents. So for me, I've struck that balance. I've also put in some things where I make sure that I don't overdo it. So, I make sure that I make time for my wife and my two dogs. And we've committed to like either playing a board game, or we watch a movie together, or just spend some quality time away where I need to switch off as well. Because I was also reaching that point where, it all just becomes a blur. And I mean, a lot of people can experience that right now. I mean, how many people automatically just switch on the news to listen to the latest update of COVID-19, as an example, and eventually it's just the same stuff over and over and over, and you become so used to just doing that. And I had to switch off. I had to understand that I can't sit on Twitter the whole day and try to fight my battles with everybody. I needed to understand that there was going to be a couple of hours a day where I'll probably miss some really stupid shit that is said on Twitter or on Facebook, or somebody that makes a video on me that really despises me on YouTube. And as soon as you just understand and accept that you're not going to get hold of everything, or you're not going to be the first person all the time with a breaking news video, then it's fine, because then eventually you understand that you can do only what you can do, but your mental health is critical, in order, because if your mental health is not right, then you're not going to put out content that I think people would like to see, firstly, and secondly, it's not going to be good for you, obviously.
My goodness, that's a huge question. It's actually something that we spoke about now at the beginning of the year. We had a quick strat session with the team here, and so we've got 10 guys running trips for us, obviously the office team, and then in Kenya. So we spoke to the guys and said, listen, because what we do is we give energy away, right? So if you're hosting a trip, you're giving energy away. You're always there for your guests. You're always doing that. And you have to make a concerted effort to both take the physical and the mental breaks in it. So physical could be, wake up half an hour earlier, do 100 push-ups or whatever it is. And from a mental point of view is to not feel bad when halfway through a 10-day trip, for example, with a group of 10, you say to them, listen, guys, you guys have a great evening. I'm going to tap out early tonight. So one of the things always is the guest does not have another drink and this, and you say, you know what, you guys are on holiday, I'm working. And for me to be the best me, I've got to do that. So it is a challenge, because I think all the people working for us, they want to be better. They pride themselves on the services that they deliver. And you always put yourself last, if that makes sense. but it's a concerted thing. You have to focus on you and make sure you, because I mean, if I'm not at my best, I can't be the best for my clients or my family or my colleagues. So yeah, it is a concerted thing, and we've specifically this year started focusing more on that. It's a big question.
Yeah,
like I said.
balance is very important to me. Relationships are incredibly important. In fact, I often argue with my business coach about it, because he's like, should you really be going to Joburg for a bachelorette when you've got all of this going on? I'm like, yes, 100% I should be going. This is one of my best friends, and it's an important milestone in life. So I think it's just about, making time for people that you love in your life, making time to exercise. Sometimes I feel that there's so much work going on, I can't make it to the gym, or I can't make it, but I try. I go to yoga twice a week, which is absolutely amazing. I've got set times, and if I have to do something in the evening, I just don't make it on those days. And I make sure that I'm done with work in time to make it to those classes. And for gym, I try and go before work, or if I have to go during the day, because I've got a trainer now, which is also really helping me keep consistent when you are held accountable by somebody else. So then I'll wake up a little bit earlier and do work that I would have done later earlier, and I just like move my day around a little bit like that. But yeah, just taking some time, especially on the weekends, to spend in nature, go on hikes, have a walk outside. It obviously depends on where you live and what's available, but I think taking those times is very important. Looking after your mental health as an entrepreneur is very important. Sometimes it is very stressful, and there will always be more challenges than successes. So it's just about also noticing how far you have come, what you have accomplished, and just making sure you're doing at least one thing every day that moves you forward in some way.
So I've generally been quite, I think, aware of where I am from a personal perspective and a work perspective, but oftentimes I've gotten it completely wrong. In July 2018, for example, I had spread myself so thin when I was running Missing Link that I was everything to everybody, okay, which meant I was nothing to nobody, and I couldn't get out of this rut until I was away. My wife forced me to go away on holiday. It was in the middle of the year. I thought she was mental, and it was so difficult to get my head around that, because I was working first thing in the morning. I was working till late at night, and so the work was a taking over my life. And she was like, no, we need to go away. And then on the Monday morning of the holiday, I was sitting on this beach in Zanzibar and stupidly checked my email. And I got an email from a customer that basically said that my involvement in a particular project was absolutely useless, and I didn't add any value at all. And I mean, just take a moment to consider when you're on holiday and you get this message from a customer and someone that you really like. And it absolutely killed me. I subsequently called the bar on the beach, and we had lots and lots of cocktails to try and help myself just get over this. But it was a beautiful thing, because when I saw that, it hurt me. But then I started to, obviously, I couldn't help myself think about it. And then I realized that I was spread too thin, and I wasn't giving my all to the right stuff. And I started changing things. And I came back to the business. I shared the story with the team, and then told them how things are going to be changed, because I need to focus on the right things, not everything. And then driving a bit more autonomy and accountability within the business. Not to say again that they weren't capable of it, but just that I thought I needed to be on top of a lot more things that I needed to be, and that was for me extremely powerful.
I think the toughest mental part of it, of starting the business after rugby, was I was quite lonely. Entrepreneurship is quite a lonely game. If you're doing, I mean, yes, Sia was part of it, but Sia, his role in the business was more ambassador, the face of the business, sort of help with initial traction, get the name out there through his profile. So in terms of being hands-on and in front of the laptop, he was obviously playing rugby, and that was his primary focus, and obviously agreed 100%. I've always told him, I said, never let Frankie's take away from your rugby focus. Help where you can, kind of thing. And I felt, coming from a team background in the rugby career, all of a sudden being alone in front of your laptop and trying to drive something without somebody next to you to share it with all the time was super, super difficult. But I don't think time's a problem. I think people just get a little bit, they get it. I mean, there's only one way to put it. There's no substitute for hard work. If you really, really want something and you aren't putting in 10-hour days, it's not going to work. So it's just having the discipline to sit down for 10-hour days, research, just build, cold call, phone, ask for help. Don't be scared to get rejected. That was, for me, one of the toughest things to get through, because, like I said earlier, rugby, everything comes a little bit easier. You've got your salary at the end of every month. You've got people supporting you. You've got like a whole support system. And then all of a sudden, you've got no salary. I mean, I think for over a year and a half, I didn't take a salary out of Frankie's. So it was super difficult to keep that positive mindset going, trying to build, because all your money is just going straight back into marketing and stock. So the mental side is extremely tough, and like I said, there's just highs and there are lows. There's nothing in between. It's you have to have a very, very strong mind to sort that out.
And you have said that you enjoy some surfing. Is that a nice escape for you when it comes to stress and that?
Well, for the last 2 weeks, I've enjoyed surfing. I've never surfed before this, but I mean, that's one of the reasons my girlfriend and I came to Costa Rica for a couple of months to learn how to surf, and so far so good. But like I said, today wasn't so good. I got a smack to the head with a board, and I wasn't feeling it. So I just decided to come into this co-working space early and carry on with my other stuff. But yeah, but so surfing is the thing about surfing is it just teaches you a lot of patience. You're so connected with the world, and you realize that through all the, well, inverted commas, problems that you think you have during a day, if you're just sitting on the water first thing in the morning, the sun's rising over the jungle, and you just look around and it's pure peace, and you realize life actually isn't that bad, and it teaches you to enjoy the small things and be connected to the world. And that's one thing I do believe in.